Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I would like to share with you my review of the strange work monument model kit. And let's begin this review by saying that this is a massive geezer, even for a 1/60th scale. And I will be referring to it as monument throughout this video. I have no opinion or take any side in the conversation around similarities or lack thereof to known designs from other manufacturers. I started this channel to share with you my passion for building and reviewing the model kits and action figures, and all that matters to me pretty much is the design and the execution of any given kit or an action figure. In any case, with that out of the way, to the monument. As you can see, this is a massive 17-inch tall model kit. It is quite striking even for 1/60th scale. It's done out of very decent plastic. Most of the white parts have the satin finish to them. They remind me of the perfect grade Unicorn Gundam, very similar to that, especially on the legs. As you can see, these are, for example, not top coated in any way, yet they look very satiny, especially in the camera and definitely in real life. The darker parts, such as black or deep blue, they have rather shiny finish to them, so they definitely benefit greatly from some top coat. And also I like to add some chrome panel lining to those parts. It gives them a bit of a mechanical pop and part separation. In terms of the construction of the kit, pretty much all of it has inner frame to it. And the inner frame is very well built out. There are some connections in the legs, as you can see. As you bend the legs beyond 90-degree point, you see the thigh armor extension and the shoulder gimmick connection, which is a very good thing to see on a larger kit, especially from a third party. And there are not that many armor connection gimmicks, but the inner frame is very nicely, it's solid, it's very well executed, it's robust. It's very tight, so be careful assembling, especially the PLM joints. They require quite some force to snap them together. Do not be afraid, you have to push through it, and you either need to have very strong thumbs or be prepared to have sore thumbs after building this kit, or you need to use something like this. These are plastic nosed pliers, so you can use them to force some parts together without damaging the plastic, or actually even hammer them on. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to buy a hammer, like a small hammer with plastic cover on a hammery bit of it, so you can actually snap, hammer the parts together without damaging them. Because of the inner frame not using any polycaps, it has a very good ability to hold a pose. Yeah, so with that, the construction is really decent, and the overall package presentation is quite full-fledged as well. You get obviously an action base and a bunch of accessories. You can see all of it right now on the screen. It's quite a complete package, I would say, especially for the price and for the size and the level of execution. So let's start with the action base. The action base, I think, complements the overall kind of design of the kit very well. It's that concave kind of, not the edgy square design. It complements very nicely the rest of the kit. The top of the action base is flat, also has that satin finish to it, and it almost makes you think it is covered or top coated, but it actually is not. And you can also add some model wash to it to panel line the parts, and that adds a bit of more separation. The black parts are black shiny plastic, so if you top coat them with flat, for example, it also adds a very nice kind of candy look to them. Very much appreciated. The action base for a kit like this, because it's rather difficult to pose larger kits on third-party action bases. They're quite difficult to find, and they're not always robust enough to support a beefier kit. As for the gooseneck, it is pretty well done as well. Unfortunately, it only has two articulation points. You have an angle control here, and you have an angle control here at the butt, plug attachment. base. There is no extension to the neck, which is a bit, unfortunate. Would have been nice to see that. Nonetheless, you can achieve some height control with the angle changing right here down below. Also, the kit itself, so the part of the kit that sticks out of the butt plug to attach to the gooseneck, has some angling to it. As you can see right now, the gooseneck is actually locked, and I can still move the kit up and down because the attachment on the body itself has some articulation to it, and it's actually quite stiff as well. As you can see, so this is the neck extension here, no problem holding that. Let's a few degrees lower. You can actually need to fight it a little bit, and still holds it well. And if you go to like even, that's when it's gonna sag a little bit to the lowest limit of the butt plug attachment, and then you can control with the angle on the neck itself. So pretty nicely done. This is how stiff the joints are. That joint is very small and it holds the entire kit. Imagine how stiff the joints are, for example, on the thighs. And speaking of, let's move on to the legs. I think legs are an absolute gem. They're done very well in this kit. The execution of the kind of this curvy, very nice chicken leg kind of looking thing, I appreciate it very well. I appreciate it very much. I think it's done very well. I think there is enough part separation that gives it that mechanical look. Very, very interesting, but it's not too overdone where it takes away from this, kind of centurion, almost like muscle mimicking design. I think it's a very nice balance. The feet, enough size of the feet that it doesn't look out of place on a massive kit like this, but at the same time the feet articulation is rather limited. They're sturdy, they're robust, they can hold the pose, but at the same time they don't really bend all that much. The legs itself also, as I said already, has very nice thigh connection armor. So as you bend the leg beyond 90-degree point, the thigh separation begins to show up. Very nice touch there. And the thigh attachment joints on the legs themselves, because the waist armor is so slim, and it's done through this very nice execution of a side armor that's actually like an attachment accessory point, but it looks like, additional super heavy armor on the thighs. So because of the way it's done, the articulation of the legs is virtually limitless. Splits, like lateral or vertical split, like standing, to the side, and the splits just going up and down. Anything you can imagine, it can do it. The pretty much limitless leg articulation. And also the thigh joint can swivel up and down, so you can extend, the legs. Very nicely done. As I said, the side armor on the waist is technically attached to the top of the leg, and it can swivel back and forth. It can be detached. Then these parts, there we go. These parts on the leg can be opened up, and then you can attach these parts separately. So technically it's not waist armor as part of the kit. Let me touch the leg back. It's not waist armor as part of the kit, but I like, to look at it as if it's part of the kit. It's part of the waist armor. You almost can kind of have the kit rest its arms on it, like it's unhappy with something, or deliberating, whatever. Looks pretty cool, very nicely done. The waist armor also itself, it can extend. You can see it has a gimmick where it closes up. So these are almost like thrusters rather than armors. But I like to think of them as waist armor anyway. Going to the waist, the front of it is rather straightforward. It has this bulky, front kind of piece. Stays within the theme, very Centurion Roman-like. The front pieces are rather tiny, small ball joint mounted pieces. The waist on the side armor is very, very slim. Almost unnoticeable when you look at it from the distance, and the rear side of the waist is rather interestingly executed. These two little waist rear skirts, they almost are like direct contrast to how soft, curvy edges of the legs. So they actually add nicely to the rest of the design, because the striker back on the back is more like edgy, angular, more modern, while the front is more of a traditional Roman style. The butt skirts or rear skirts look very, they complement the rest of the design pretty nicely, but at the same time, even when you look at it from the front, they can look a bit out of place. So kind of take it or leave it. Some like it, some don't. I don't mind them, though they sometimes just catch my eye and sometimes they annoy me a little bit. Then as you move on to the body, I think the torso is executed fantastic here. It is, once again, it's somewhat of a merge between the soft curves of the legs and the more angular curves of the striker back at the back. I think it's like middle ground there, and it's done pretty nicely. So the bottom of the waist has these kind of armor mimicking the obliques of a human body. Very nicely molded there. It looks very good. The body itself attached on a big bag, so it swivels around pretty much without a limit, which is great. It can also crunch, no problem there at all. The top of the body almost looks like a some sort of a sports car, gives it a speed edge. Well, looks pretty nice. The part separation is very decent there, but at the same time, the sides of the body almost looks like a collar, like a coat, so it's very cool balance of those things. And this little handle looks like a bit of a gimmick. Obviously, it's too big to be like an opening hatch for the pilot, but it looks not too bad. It looks pretty interesting, I would say. And as you move on to the shoulders, obviously the shoulder armors are very striking design, very much Roman theme. The top of the shoulders is open. The shoulders have inner frames, and especially on the shoulders, as you assemble them, be very careful attaching the armor to the inner frame, because at least on my kit, the pegs were very thick. They needed quite a bit of thinning, and if I was to force them in, I would have had really obvious stress marks here, which would be very difficult to cover, especially in a black plastic if you don't paint it. For example, I did that mistake here on the legs, and I'm not sure if it comes through on the video, but you can see a little white circle. Once again, the peg was too thick, I was forcing it in, I didn't pay attention, and now I have a stress mark, which I can cover with this armor piece, right? But it's still there, I know about it, and kind of annoys me. Anyway, and before we move to the accessories, the arms are also very nicely done. There is no kind of armor connection, so if you bend the elbow, it doesn't really, move the armor parts. There is a piece of armor that's simply connected to the elbow. But there is swivel, there is angles, arms have no limitation whatsoever. They are very sturdy arms. They're very tight joints, so whatever arm you put, whatever pose you put it in, it will hold it very well and very easily. As for the hands themselves, you have 3 pairs of hands. The ones I have attached right now are the holding hands, and there is also closed fists and open palm hands. So 3 pairs of hands this kit comes with overall. All 3 pairs have articulated thumbs, while the fingers are pre-posed, which is nice, it makes them quite sturdy. And as for the head unit itself is once again another absolute eye-catcher, striking design. You almost, like you don't see it when you look at it from the front, and then when you look at it from the side, boom, this massive, beautiful looking mohawk, just crazy good looking thing. It catches the light very well. The plastic is it's a bit murky, it's not too transparent, so it doesn't pop that much. I would like it to pop a bit more, and I was even thinking about maybe adding some, LEDs inside, like a light up panel. But it's very thin, it's very obvious, the mohawk itself, and I'm not willing to risk it. Maybe if somebody, releases a light up kit for it, I'll definitely buy that. But for now, it's not too bad. And as for the head itself, once again, inner frame inside, armor on top of it. I didn't experience any major issues with the head. And the attachment itself is a ball joint, so it has all that swivel. Doesn't really have side-to-side lateral movement, but it's sufficient. Definitely lives up to the rest of the kit. And with that out of the way, let's move on to the accessories, which are also quite numerous here. The one that clearly catches the eye is the shoulder mounted armor pieces. Very unique, very creative execution. Love to see stuff like this. Very unusual. I hope we see more of these creative takes on how to attach armor. In this particular case, not only the design of the shoulders is striking, but the fact that the shoulders have armor attachments that almost look like two additional arms is just beyond. It is really well done. I love it. It looks cool, but at the same time it doesn't look wonky like Doc Ock from Spider-Man, right? These two extra arms, they look like more like, you know, from Warhammer, like a surgeon, like a mechanical surgeon with those tentacles on the back. I like it. Anyway, so it comes with two accessories out of the box. So you have this rather small shield. It's a bit of a almost like a gimmicky shield because it's definitely too small to cover the, let's say, top of the kit, like a be useful protection item, but at the same time it's big enough to cover like the head and top of the torso, so you can definitely, you know, articulate it to cover kind of the important bits, let's put it that way. And it also has you know, this gimmick with opening up rocket pods, so it's not only a defensive, it's an offensive piece as well. And one funny thing, so the white the white armor part at the front of the shield where you have a water slide decal, it's actually it spells Monument Shield rather than Shield. I think it's an intentional typo, but it's a funny typo nonetheless. And on the other side you have a beam saber, more like a beam cannon if you ask me. It's a very massive looking gun. It's the only kind of long range armament because other than that you have that shield with tiny rocket pods and you have the sabers in the hands, while this looks like a, you know, super cool massive sniper rifle. Also very nicely articulated. It has an extended barrel, a fully extended, placed next to the kit. It is actually taller than the kit on the action stand, so it's quite massive. It's a bit wobbly, fully extended, and it has a few gimmicks, like for example these vents. Oh, sorry for that. Let's put that. There you go. These vents, they open up like to vent the gun or to get into the assault mode, whatever. And yeah, extending them, you can definitely detach armor very easily. And there is also a couple of these flip out parts at the bottom of the, like at the beginning of the barrel. I think these are cameras, or maybe they are vents. I'm not entirely sure. They look pretty cool. They have blue transparent plastic in them. Once again, popping maybe a couple of LEDs inside them. Maybe a future project. I don't know. We'll see. Now back to the skirt armors. Once again, they are technically can be fully detached and then they can be attached elsewhere, but I really like to have them as part of like heavier skirt armor on top of the legs. And then of course the standout accessory of this kit, and also the accessory that comes in quite a contrast to the rest of the execution and design style of the kit. Let me take this out of the way, is the striker pack at the back. While most of the kit is more of this combination of soft and more angular curves, and on the legs very soft curves of course, the striker pack is more of a modern edgy design, so it actually pretty nice complement, because this looks like more of a, you know, weight power. This looks like more speed, edginess, kind of aggression style. I think they complement each other very well. Let me take it off and we can review quickly the striker pack. Bear with me. There we go. So as a striker pack, when you have it detached, it has 4 attachment points. The ones at the top, you don't really need to cover them up. They look nice as it is. But the ones at the bottom, there is actually an extra spare part that you can use to cover it up so it doesn't look too bad when the striker pack is detached. And when you kind of look at the striker pack on its own, it is a, you know, quite an accessory set. It has a lot of articulation to it, and it actually consists of 5 separate parts. So there is this wing boosters on the side. They kind of open up, as you can see right here, and the wings are articulated as well, and they can be fully detached like this. There you go. And these things also, they kind of close up entirely. And there are these intake vents as well, which I chrome lined so they have a little bit of a pop to them. And the core itself has this nice cool little black wing on top. Once again, it comes out of the box, shiny black plastics. It looks a bit cheap. So what I like to do is parts like that, I add chrome panel lining to them, and then I flat coat them in flat or gloss, and then it gives them a nice pop. And then there is a plaque inside that says Airy Striker Pack, which is a very nice stake. I think if you want, you can light that up. That will look spectacular for sure. So the Striker Pack it definitely gives the kit that additional kind of futuristic mechanic design, because without it, it looks just more of a classic kind of inspired design mecha. But with the Striker Pack, it looks like a more, classic themed yet modern, fully mobile, super speedy, super aggressive mecha. Like it very much. And last but not least is the manual for this kit. So the manual book is actually quite small, especially for a kind of perfect grade sized kit, right? And what I didn't like about it is that it doesn't really say anywhere in the part inventory when you check your parts. It doesn't say whether it's ABS or PS or some else plastic. Kind of go figure yourself. And the pictures themselves are also quite small, which can be a bit difficult to work with. Been spoiled by Sky Defender. That thing has the manual of all manuals. And also there were a couple of mistakes in the manual here. A couple of steps were printed incorrectly, so they added 2 printouts that had correction of the steps. Not too bad, it's not too difficult to follow. I would have rather appreciated, let's say, more complicated steps, but larger printouts. That would have been easier to follow. And the water slide decals that come with the kit, there is no printed out guide. You have to kind of scan this QR code on the water slide package, and you'll find it online. I will also add a link in the description of this video for your reference. All water slides pretty much get used up, and there is a bunch of extra highlighted water slides which I haven't had time yet to apply, maybe in the future. But yeah, they're pretty good water slides. They're very thin, so they blend with the rest of the kit very, very easily. They're actually so thin that I had quite a few of them, I think, break on me. So it took a little bit of extra mark setter and extra water to, kind of manipulate them in place so it doesn't look like they are actually split up and all tattered. Once again, if you apply them with mark setter, let them set, and then use some mark softer, you can actually meld them into the kit, so they, even if you don't paint, they will still look like they are part of the kit. But even if you just panel top coat, they will also look like part of the paint. They're very, very thin water slides, pretty decent, but can be a bit difficult to work with. Anyway, to kind of sum it all up, the build experience, pretty tight fit on most parts, right? So either have very strong thumbs or be prepared to use some tools to snap it in place. Know when to apply force and when not to apply force. If you're building inner frame, you actually it's supposed to be tight, especially on the POM joints. But when you're building the armor, maybe consider not applying pressure, because you can damage the armor parts and have very obvious stress marks. Nonetheless, some pegs need some thinning, so be careful with that. A little bit of a sanding or hobby knife will do you well. There are very few bad gate placements, especially on the darker parts. I don't think there is a single bad one. The one on the front of the Mohawk is a bit obvious, but it snaps off very easily because it's on the seam line. But for example, on the new Master Grade Narrative Verkai, which I built recently, it had also dark blue feet armor at the front, and it had very, very obvious gate placements. They were not undergated, they were just really obvious at the front, and it took a lot of leveling and sanding and polishing to make them look somewhat decent, but you can still see them, and I can see them, and it kind of bugs me, especially for a 2024 new release from, first party. This has none of that, at least none that kind of stick in my head. There are quite a few obvious gate placements on the white plastic, but those are extremely easy to cover. You just need to level them off carefully, and then you cannot see them pretty much at all. But if you paint, of course, you can cover all of that, and you don't really care about it. Overall, stunning design, fantastic. Very decent build experience. I enjoyed every minute of it, and the end result is absolutely fantastic. Good package, good price, amazing shelf presence, unique design and execution of it. At least nothing that I've built so far kind of compares to it. It's very much eye-catching. Highly recommend getting it and building it. If you need any advice, feel free to reach out. And I hope you enjoy the build time-lapse, which I will post separately, and the beauty shots, which will follow. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.